Welcome, teachers, parents, boys, girls, to week 4, day 2. We are going to be working on factoring and distributing. But first, we need to have a little conversation about multiplication. Here you can see 3 different ways to write 5 times 4. You have 5 with the symbol x and then a 4, 5.4, or 5 parentheses 4. These are all acceptable ways to say 5 times 4. However, let's say that one of the factors you're multiplying isn't a number and it's a variable, like the variable x, right? So what are we going to do then? We can't write 5xx, that wouldn't really make any sense. And 5.x doesn't look right. 5 parentheses x looks okay. But when you're dealing with a variable, a very common way to write it is simply 5 or whatever number you have and then your variable. Right? You don't need any symbol at all. You can simply write the number and the variable next to each other. But before we go any farther, let's go ahead and define what a variable is. A variable is a letter used to represent a number. Let's look at an example of a problem that has a variable or an unknown in the problem. So this says every time Max does his chores, he's paid $5. So how much money did Max earn doing chores last week? Well, we can't solve this problem because we don't know how many times he did his chores. So let's say he did his chores twice last week, right? And that's times $5. That would equal $10, right? Let's say he did his chores 4 times. Times 5 would equal $20. How about if he did his chores 10 times? That's 10 times 5 equaling $50. As you see here, our money never changes. It's always 5. Right? However, the number of chores we did changed all the time. That's why we do a variable instead of a number like x. Okay? 5 times the number of times he did his chores. Right? So x is our variable. Now the number that is multiplied by the variable is called a coefficient. Let's go ahead and define what a coefficient is. A coefficient is the numerical factor that multiplies the variable. Excellent. So when you put together a coefficient, in our case 5, and x, our variable, you get an answer. That answer is called a product. I think you know what's coming up. Let's go ahead and define the word product. A product is the solution when 2 factors are multiplied. Excellent. We needed to go through these algebraic steps so that we can do factoring and distributing. Let's get started with factoring first. So when we're factoring, we're trying to take something out. And we can do this by following a 3-step guide. First, we're going to find the GCF, that stands for greatest common factor. Second, we put the GCF outside of some parentheses. And third, we divide by that GCF. So let's go ahead and follow these 3 steps now together. All right, find the GCF. Well, we have an m and a y. There's nothing common there, so we don't have any greatest common factor of m and y. But what about with our numbers? We have 10 and 12. Do you know the greatest common factor of 10 and 12? Well, if you said 2, you would be correct. So our GCF is going to equal 2. Okay, so we're going to put that 2 outside of a pair of parentheses. Okay, we've done step 1 and step 2. Time for step 3. We need to divide by the GCF. So what is 10m divided by 2? 10m divided by 2. Well, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and we just leave our m the same. So we have, what's half of 10m? 5m, right? 10m divided by 2 is 5m. All right, the sign stays the same. We still have a minus sign. And then 12y divided by 2 is simply 6y. So this expression, 10m minus 12y, is equal to 2 parentheses 5m minus 6y. Let's try one more example together. In this expression, we have 24x minus 6z. So what is the greatest common factor? Well, again, there's nothing about our variables that are the same, so there's nothing there. But with 24 and 6, we can find a common factor of 6. That's the greatest common factor. So we're going to use that 6 outside of our parentheses, just like we did last time. And now we just need to find the inside by dividing. 24x divided by 6 is 4x. Minus sign stays the same. And 6z divided by 6 is just z. Right? If you had 6 z's and you give them out to 6 people, each person would get 1 z. We don't need to write a coefficient of 1 because it's understood that if there's 1 z there, there's 1 z. So 24x minus 6z equals 6 times the quantity 4x minus z. I hope that makes sense. You're going to get a chance to try it on your own during the homework section today. Now, let's move on to distributing. There's only one rule for distributing, so I didn't even write it down. All we have to do is multiply. Okay? So you're going to distribute or multiply this 4 times every term inside of the parentheses. So first we do 4 times 2m. That's going to equal 8m. And then we're going to do 4 times a negative 7y. So that's going to be a negative 28y. And that's all you have to do. It's pretty much the opposite of factoring. So 4 times the quantity, 2m minus 7y, is going to be the same as 8m minus 28y. We simply have to multiply. And when I read a parentheses, I say times the quantity, right? When you're reading an algebraic expression that has a parentheses, you should say times the quantity. Okay, let's look at one more example. Here we have 3 times the quantity x plus 4y. Again, there's only one step we have to multiply. So first we multiply 3 times x. Well, 3 times x is simply 3x. And now we can multiply 3 times a positive 4y, right? Positive right here. So 3 times 4 is 12, and y, don't forget the plus sign, and that's our answer, 3x plus 12y. And that happens to be equal to the expression 3 times the quantity x plus 4y. Okay, now let me give you a chance to try some on your own. Go ahead and download the PDF in the upper left-hand corner. There you will find a PDF worksheet with 4 questions, 2 factoring questions and 2 distributing questions. Go ahead and do those questions now. Hit pause because when you come back, I'm going to show you the answer key and how to do each problem. So if you are still listening to me and you haven't done it on your own, go ahead and download the file now. Hit pause. I'll reveal the answers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, here you can see the answers to your homework. I hope you did really, really well. I'm going to go through each question right now. So, when we factor 6w and 9h, our greatest common factor is 3. Okay, so 6w divided by 3 is 2w, and 9h divided by 3 is 3h. That's how we came up with 3 times the quantity 2w plus 3h. Number 2, GCF is 6. So we take the 6 out. 12x divided by 6 is 2x. And negative 6y divided by 6 is just negative y. So we end up with 6 times the quantity 2x minus y. All right, for our distribution questions, we always have to multiply, right? 3 times 2x, 6x. And 3 times a negative 5v is a negative 15v, right? We simply multiply. All right. Number 4, 2 times 6r is 12r. And 2 times 5y is 10y. And again, it's positive because we have a plus sign here. Very good. I hope you understood today's lesson. We will see you back here tomorrow for day number 3. Bye for now.